My name is Chloe Bennett. I'm 29 years old and my parents forgot my birthday again. At 9:17 the next morning, my phone finally lit up with a call from my father. He didn't say happy birthday, apologize, or ask how I was doing. "Where did you get the money for that Mercedes?" he demanded. I looked through the glass wall of my office at the black Mercedes parked below. It had cost me $95,000, paid in full with money I had earned legally and without a single dollar from my family. "I bought it," I said. "That isn't an answer." "It's the only answer you're entitled to." His breathing changed before his voice dropped into the controlled tone he used whenever he wanted obedience to sound like concern. "Family meeting, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Don't be late." He hung up before I could respond. The night before, while my family ignored my birthday, they had been celebrating my younger brother's latest business announcement at a private dinner. My mother posted photographs of the cake, champagne, and a banner calling him the future of the Bennett family. They hadn't forgotten June 14th. They had decided his announcement mattered more. But the Mercedes wasn't what frightened my father. It was the rolled engineering document visible on the passenger seat in one of my Instagram photographs. He recognized the project number printed across the top. He knew what it meant, and he knew what I might have discovered. By the time I entered that family meeting, they thought they were going to question me about a car. They had no idea I was carrying evidence that could destroy everything they had built around my brother. Before I tell you what my father said, and what happened after I walked out, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and where are you watching from? I want to see how far this story travels. I had spent 6 years working as a fire protection engineer in Denver, designing suppression systems for warehouses, battery storage facilities, mountain resorts, and communities threatened by wildfires. Most people imagined my job involved checking smoke detectors. In reality, I studied how buildings failed under extreme heat, how wind carried embers through ventilation systems, and how one overlooked material could turn a manageable fire into disaster. The work was technical, exhausting, and invisible when done correctly. Nobody applauded when a building did not burn down. My family never understood that, or perhaps they never tried. My father, Richard Bennett, owned Bennett Alpine Supply, a regional company selling camping equipment, emergency kits, generators, and outdoor clothing. My mother, Diane, managed charity events and the company's public image. My younger brother, Evan, had been raised to believe the business would eventually become his. I had been raised to help make that possible. When Evan failed accounting during college, my parents hired a tutor and blamed the professor. When I graduated near the top of my engineering class, they missed the ceremony because Evan was presenting a business idea at a campus competition. He didn't win, but my mother framed his participation certificate. When I passed my professional engineering examination, my father said, "That's good experience. Maybe one day you can help Evan with product safety. Not lead a department, not protect thousands of people. Help Evan." For years, I told myself they behaved that way because the family company was familiar while my profession was not. The truth was simpler. They believed my accomplishments mattered only when they could be redirected toward my brother. That became impossible to ignore on my 29th birthday. That morning, my coworkers decorated my desk with paper flames and announced that the wildfire resilience project I had led had passed its final independent review. The system used heat-responsive exterior valves, ember-resistant vents, and automated water distribution to protect groups of homes when municipal pressure failed. A national building products company had agreed to license part of the design, and under an innovation agreement, I received a percentage of the licensing payment plus a large performance bonus. My colleagues knew what the project had cost me. They had watched me sleep on an office couch during simulation week and restart an entire testing sequence after finding a sensor discrepancy others considered insignificant. At noon, they surprised me with lunch. At 4, my closest friend, Natalie Brooks, arrived with a small cake. At 5, my family group chat remained silent. I did not expect a party. I wanted one sentence. "Happy birthday, Chloe." At 7:12, my mother posted a photograph online. She and my father stood beside Evan beneath a banner reading Bennett Alpine's next chapter. The room was filled with business owners, suppliers, and investors. Evan held a prototype emergency power station like a trophy. The caption read, "Celebrating our brilliant son and the future he is building." Then I noticed the date printed on the promotional card, June 14th. My birthday. They had scheduled his event on that date deliberately. My mother had once used my birthday as the security code for our garage. This was not forgetfulness. It was a decision about whose milestone deserved the room. Natalie watched my expression change. "Don't call them tonight." I wasn't going to. "You're holding your phone like you want to throw it through a wall." "I'm calculating how many years I wasted waiting for them to notice me voluntarily." She did not offer a comforting lie. "What did the licensing company say about the payment?" she asked. "It cleared this afternoon." "Retirement account?" "Funded." "Emergency savings?" 14 months. "Debt?" "None." Natalie nodded toward the dealership website open on my laptop. I had been watching the same black Mercedes for 3 months, always closing the page before considering it seriously. "You don't need their approval," she said. "I know. But you still want their reaction." That was the part I did not want to admit. Buying the car was not revenge. I loved it, had lived below my means for years, and still drove the same aging sedan from graduate school. Yet a wounded part of me wanted my family to see proof that I had succeeded without their money, introductions, or permission. The next afternoon, I entered the dealership with a certified payment and left with the Mercedes. Before driving away, I placed a rolled copy of my approved system design on the passenger seat. The project number was visible across the top. I posted 2 photographs with the caption, 29, debt-free, patent licensed, celebrating the work that happened when nobody was watching. I did not tag my family. I didn't need to. By midnight, the post had hundreds of reactions from engineers, clients, former classmates, and professional organizations. My parents remained silent. Then my father called the next morning and demanded a family meeting. The panic in his voice told me the Mercedes had caught his attention, but the project number had frightened him. I opened my locked desk drawer and removed a folder Natalie had helped organize. It contained emails, altered diagrams, investor presentations, and a financing document bearing my name. I had discovered the first irregularity 3 weeks earlier. Now I knew the problem was much larger. 3 weeks before my birthday, Bennett Alpine Supply had asked my engineering firm to review a new line of portable wildfire defense products. The request arrived through our general account, and my manager assigned the preliminary conflict check to another engineer. The product was called Ember Shield, a compact perimeter system designed to protect cabins and small commercial properties during wildfire evacuations. It combined exterior sprinklers, heat sensors, and ember-blocking vents. According to the investor materials, it was an original innovation developed by Evan Bennett and an internal technical team. There was one problem. The design looked like mine, not vaguely similar. Several diagrams reproduced valve arrangements, sensor thresholds, and airflow calculations from confidential drafts I had created before filing the patent application. Even a labeling error from one early diagram had been copied. My coworker brought the materials to me after finding my name in an embedded file property that had not been completely deleted. My employer's legal department immediately restricted access and opened a confidential investigation. Because Bennett Alpine belonged to my family, I disclosed the relationship and stepped away from the formal review. Privately, I searched my records. Months earlier, my mother had asked me to examine a safety brochure Evan was developing. She described it as a simple educational handout for customers living near wildfire zones. I sent her an early public-facing presentation explaining general concepts but omitting confidential calculations. The investor deck contained material that had never appeared in that presentation. Someone had obtained private files. I changed my passwords and checked account access records. A login from my parents' house had occurred during Thanksgiving weekend when I stayed overnight. Evan had borrowed my laptop charger and spent nearly an hour in the room where my computer was unlocked. I still wanted another explanation. Then, Natalie reviewed a financing document included in Bennett Alpine's investor package. It named me as a consulting engineer affiliated with Ember Shield. A signature resembling mine appeared beneath a statement confirming I had reviewed the prototype. I had never seen the document. My signature had been copied from an old scholarship form. Investors had been told that I was participating in the project and that my credentials supported its safety claims. If the product failed or injured someone, my name could be dragged into the investigation. Even if I proved the signature was forged, the scandal could damage my license and career. Preserve everything, Natalie said. Do not warn them until your company's counsel completes the first review. They're my family. They used your license number in an investor packet. My parents may not know. Then let them prove that. That possibility kept me awake. Evan had always been entitled, but forgery was different. I could imagine him lying to my parents and claiming I had approved the project. I could not imagine my parents knowingly participating. Then, on my birthday, I saw photographs from Evan's celebration. One image showed my father presenting a framed product rendering to investors. My mother stood beside a display board listing the Ember Shield advisory team. My name appeared at the top. They knew. They were raising money using my credentials while ignoring my birthday at the same event. The realization did not make me cry. It made me calm. For years, I had interpreted their behavior as emotional neglect. Now it threatened my livelihood. They were not merely overlooking my success. They were harvesting it. My father's call after seeing the Mercedes confirmed he was worried. He recognized the project number because versions of it appeared in the documents Evan had copied. The meeting was not really about my spending. He wanted to discover how much I knew. At 6:30 the next evening, Natalie met me in the parking garage beneath my office. You don't have to go alone. If you come in, they'll know I've spoken to a lawyer. You have spoken to a lawyer. I want to hear what they say before they edit themselves. She handed me a recording device. This is for accuracy, not drama. I placed it in my handbag beside the evidence folder. My company's attorneys had already notified Bennett Alpine's potential investors that neither the firm nor I had authorized the use of our intellectual property or credentials. My parents did not know the notice had been sent. At 6:52, I pulled into a private dining club near downtown Denver. My father liked rooms where the staff knew his name and strangers could see him being important. Through the windows, I saw my parents and Evan seated near the back. A leather portfolio rested beside my father. Evan was speaking rapidly while my mother watched the entrance. They were not preparing to celebrate me. They were preparing a defense. I entered at exactly 7. My father looked at the Mercedes key in my hand, then at the folder beneath my arm. For the first time in years, he did not look annoyed by me. He looked afraid. Sit down, my father said. No greeting, no birthday apology, no congratulations. I remained standing long enough to remove my coat and place the folder on the table where all three could see it. My mother forced a smile. You look nice, sweetheart. My birthday was 2 days ago. Her smile disappeared. Evan lowered his eyes. My father tapped one finger against the table. We can discuss that later. First, we need an honest conversation about the car. I sat across from them. Why? Because spending $95,000 without telling your family is reckless. I paid cash. His fingers stopped moving. My mother leaned forward. Cash? Yes. From where? Evan asked. Why are you asking? He shrugged too quickly. It's normal. A normal question is, do you like your new car? An abnormal question is demanding proof of funds from an adult whose birthday you ignored. My father removed a printed copy of my Instagram photograph. The project number had been circled in red. What is this? My work. Which project? You already know. My mother glanced at him. Evan's knee began bouncing. My father lowered his voice. We're concerned someone may be taking advantage of you. Sudden payments, expensive purchases, confidential documents displayed online. These things raise professional issues. The hypocrisy was almost elegant. You're concerned about my confidential documents? We're concerned about your judgment. I opened my folder but removed nothing. Tell me what I did wrong. You bought a luxury vehicle immediately after receiving a large payment, my mother said. That isn't how we raised you. You raised Evan. He sighed. Here we go. My father gave me a warning look. This is not about your brother. Then why was my birthday replaced with his investor event? We assumed you were busy, my mother said. You posted photographs from a dinner held on my birthday while using my name to promote Evan's company. The table went silent. Once the server left, my father folded his hands. We were going to explain that. When? When the project was further along. You listed me as consulting engineer. Only in preliminary material, Evan said. There was a banner. That was branding. There was an investor packet with my license number. His face tightened. You've seen it? My father interrupted. How did you get it? An innocent person would have asked whether the document existed. He asked how I obtained it. My firm received a request to review EmberShield. Your files included diagrams copied from my protected work, an advisory statement I never approved, and a signature I did not provide. My mother lost color. Evan leaned back. My father did not deny it. Instead, he said, "Nothing has been manufactured yet." Is that your defense? It means no damage has occurred. My identity was used to raise money. It was an internal financing discussion. Investors are not internal. Evan pushed his chair closer. We can fix the paperwork. It was a misunderstanding. Which part did I misunderstand? The stolen diagrams? The forged signature? Or the claim that I supervised a prototype I had never seen? I didn't forge anything. Then who did? He looked at my mother. She whispered, "We used an old signature because the presentation deadline changed." For a moment, I heard only distant dishes. My mother had admitted it as casually as if she had reused a photograph. You copied my signature? It was never intended to hurt you. Your father believed you would eventually support the project. You ignored my birthday while celebrating a product built from my work and expected me to be grateful afterward? My father's patience broke. We did not ignore you to punish you. Evan had investors available that night. Adults prioritize opportunities. You could have called? You are turning a scheduling conflict into an accusation. It stopped being a scheduling conflict when you forged my signature. His jaw tightened. Lower your voice. No. A nearby couple glanced toward us, and embarrassment flashed across his face. Public appearance had always mattered more than private truth. This family spent 30 years building Bennett Alpine, he said. Evan's product could expand it nationally. Your technical work gave us a chance to compete. My technical work? We believed the principles were available within the family. Available within the family? Like my college fund? My mother looked sharply at my father. Evan stopped moving. At 18, I had received a partial scholarship, and my grandparents had created education accounts for both Evan and me. My parents told me my account had lost value and pressured me to choose a cheaper program. I worked 2 jobs and took out loans. Years later, Natalie found a transfer record showing most of my education fund had been moved into a family business account before Evan began college. A similar amount then paid his tuition, apartment deposit, and startup expenses. My father's voice became cold. That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. You took money meant for my education, gave it to Evan, and praised me for surviving without it. Now you're taking my work because his company cannot survive without that either. We did what was necessary. For whom? Evan snapped. You grew up with food, a home, and every opportunity. I had opportunities because I earned scholarships and worked nights. And now you think a Mercedes makes you better than us. The Mercedes is mine. That is why it bothers you. My mother shook her head. No one is bothered by your success. Then say congratulations. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That was the simplest test I had ever given them, and all 3 failed. My father finally said, "Congratulations on the car." But the words sounded forced. "Thank you. Now tell me why you called this meeting." He folded his hands. "We need to know what action your firm intends to take." There it was. They were not worried about my spending. They wanted information about the investigation. Ask your attorney. We prefer to resolve family matters privately. You stopped treating it as private when you distributed my credentials to investors. Evan leaned forward. We can correct the paperwork and remove your name. You cannot remove it from documents already sent. The investors know it was preliminary. Do they know the test results were fabricated? My father turned sharply toward him. What test results? I slid a laboratory summary across the table. Embershield's investor deck claimed the prototype had maintained exterior coverage for 4 hours under simulated wildfire conditions. The attached report used the logo of an independent laboratory that had never tested the product. The report number belonged to an unrelated battery enclosure. Evan stared at the page. That wasn't the final report. It wasn't any report. Our contractor handled it. Which contractor? He hesitated until my father demanded an answer. I adapted a sample format because the real test was delayed. Investors needed projected performance. You presented projections as verified results. It was temporary. With a laboratory's logo? Everyone uses preliminary numbers during fundraising. Fraudulent companies do. My mother whispered his name, but Evan pushed the document away. You've always wanted me to fail. I paid your rent after your first startup collapsed. I edited your grant application and introduced you to a specialist who reviewed your prototype for free. You helped because you like feeling superior. I helped because Mom told me you were depressed and might give up. My mother looked down. Evan frowned. You told her that? You were struggling, she said. I was busy. I finally saw the pattern clearly. His missed payments became a mental health crisis. His unfinished coursework became unfair treatment. His failures became emergencies I was expected to solve. Every crisis redirected money, labor, or attention toward him. What happened to the $700,000 from the seed round? I asked. My father stiffened. That information is confidential. Your financing summary says the money was for testing, tooling, and regulatory review. Bank records show payments for a luxury office, an Aspen trip, personal credit cards, and consulting fees to a company registered at Evan's address. Evan's face turned red. Where did you get that? Your financing packet. My father scanned the pages. These categories may have been coded incorrectly. Ask Evan what Summit brand strategy does. My mother looked confused. Isn't that the marketing consultant? It is a company Evan formed 8 months ago. My father turned toward him. Evan rubbed his face. It streamlined vendor payments. To yourself? Some of it was compensation. You told us you weren't taking a salary, my mother said. Not a formal salary. How much? My father demanded. About $140,000. My mother covered her mouth. My father stared at Evan with an expression he had used on employees and me, but never on him. You paid yourself $140,000? I worked for 2 years without stability. You lived in a company-owned condominium. I still had expenses. You told me the money was going into testing. It was building the brand. My father struck the table. You used my company as collateral because you told me to make this work. I told you to build a product, not invent reports and move money through your own company. Watching them turn on Evan did not feel satisfying. They were horrified by the money he took from them, but never equally horrified by the years they took from me. My father looked back at the documents. How much does your firm know? Enough. Have they contacted anyone outside? I'm not authorized to discuss the investigation. This is your family's livelihood. My career is my livelihood. My mother whispered. We made a mistake. A mistake is sending the wrong attachment. This required finding an old signature, copying it, and distributing it. We were under pressure. So was I when I worked 2 jobs because my education fund disappeared. My father exhaled. We can discuss repayment. You think this is about repayment? What do you want? An apology? Money? A title in the company? Name your terms. He still believed every wound could be negotiated as long as he controlled the offer. I want you to stop using me. We are not using you. You called because you wanted to know what my firm discovered. You criticized my car so I would defend myself before you asked me to protect people who stole from me. His expression changed. We need your cooperation. You need my silence. Evan laughed bitterly. She finally has leverage and she loves it. Do you know why I posted the photo? I asked. To show off. I posted it because I spent years postponing joy while this family treated everything I earned as something that might eventually belong to you. The car was the first expensive thing I bought without wondering whether helping you again would make me a better daughter. My father asked whether my patent had been licensed and how much I had received. That is not a normal family question either. His silence confirmed he was already calculating whether my money could replace what Evan had misused. Then he admitted Bennett Alpine was exposed. The bank loan depended on projected Ember Shield revenue, and if investors withdrew, the company could breach its lending conditions. The flagship store and warehouse had been used as collateral. Evan insisted the investors would stay once I said the technical problems could be fixed. I will not say that. You haven't even seen the current prototype. Fraudulent reports cannot be repaired with a new prototype. My father reached across the table. Join the project officially, conduct a proper review. We'll compensate your firm and present the changes as an administrative oversight. You want me to legitimize the product afterward. I want you to save the company your grandparents started. The company you used to finance Evan. The company supports 63 employees. I knew some of them. They did not deserve to lose their jobs. My father saw my hesitation. If you refuse, innocent people may suffer. Once again, their emergency was becoming my responsibility. For a second, the old instinct returned. Fix it. Protect everyone. Absorb the cost. Become useful enough to be loved. Then I remembered my forged signature and the banner on my birthday. You put those employees at risk, I said. Not me. My father's expression hardened. So you're willing to watch the family company collapse because your feelings were hurt. I'm refusing to risk my license by endorsing stolen work and false testing. My mother reached for my hand. I moved it away. Whatever happened, we can repair it privately, she said. You mean hide it privately? Protect the family. From consequences. Evan pushed back from the table. The design wasn't stolen. We grew up in the same house. You talked about your work. I never discussed protected airflow geometry or confidential thresholds at dinner. You left files open. So you admit taking them? I'm saying you weren't careful. My mother told him to stop, but anger made him careless. I needed a technical foundation, and you had one. I was going to give you credit when the company launched. You gave yourself credit in the investor deck. I created the concept. You placed my engineering inside a plastic housing and invented results. I made it marketable. That ended any remaining doubt. Whatever Evan touched became his because he could sell it more confidently than the person who created it. I removed a formal cease and desist notice prepared by my employer's legal counsel. It prohibited Bennett Alpine, Ember Shield, and Evan from using my name, license, patent materials, drawings, or implied endorsement. My father read the first page. When was this issued? This afternoon. You served the company before meeting us? My company acted after verifying unauthorized use. You could have given us 24 hours. You had months. My mother looked at me as if I had struck her. You knew this meeting was happening and let the attorneys send it? The legal deadline was not scheduled around dinner. My father scanned the next page. Copies were sent to North Peak Capital and Westbridge Ventures. They received documents bearing my forged signature. You destroyed the financing. False documents endangered it. Correcting them exposed it. Evan grabbed the notice and his confidence collapsed line by line. You have no idea what you've done. I protected my work and license. My company is dead. Was it alive without my name? He stood, sending his chair into the wall. You've always hated that Dad chose me. You waited until investors were committed, then humiliated us because nobody called on your birthday. Then remove my designs, test the product honestly, and build it yourself. His mouth opened, but he could not answer. My mother began crying. How did we get here? We arrived one excuse at a time. When my father used my education fund and called it necessity, when my mother turned Evan's failures into emergencies, when I was praised for independence because it made me easier to neglect, and when Evan learned my labor was family property, while his ambitions belonged only to him. My phone vibrated. Natalie had written. Both investors acknowledged notice. North Peak paused funding, Westbridge requesting internal review. I placed the phone face down. My father noticed. What happened? Check your email. A moment later, his face emptied. North Peak suspended the next transfer. Westbridge then froze negotiations pending an independent review of intellectual property, test data, and financial controls. My father's phone rang. The company's chief financial officer. I heard fragments. Paused credit line, compliance review, bank counsel, immediate documentation. When the call ended, my mother asked what the bank wanted. They're reviewing whether the loan conditions were breached. Evan sat heavily. This can still be fixed. My father turned on him. You diverted investment money. I can repay it. With what? My equity. Your equity is worthless if funding disappears. I'll sell the condominium. The company owns it. Their argument drew attention. A manager approached, and my father forced a nod. For decades, he had controlled every room through certainty. Now his voice shook. He turned to me. Call your lawyer. Tell them we are negotiating. We are not. Tell the investors you will review the product. I'm not. 63 jobs, Chloe. You keep saying that as if employees forced you to forge my signature. I did what I believed would protect the company. You protected Evan from proving he could build anything without taking from me. My mother stood. Enough. We know mistakes were made. Stop calling choices mistakes. She flinched. You had many chances to ask me. I continued. You could have requested a license or hired my firm openly. You chose deception because you assumed I would be easier to control afterward. No one contradicted me. I gathered my documents. My father blocked the table with his arm. You are not leaving until we decide what happens next. I looked at him. You don't decide that anymore. His hand dropped. I placed the Mercedes key between us. This caused your panic not because it was expensive, but because it proved I had money you could not track or redirect. You saw the project number and realized I knew. My father stared at the key. I didn't buy it to hurt you. I bought it because I was proud of myself. You turned it into evidence because guilt made you see a threat where there was only a celebration. My mother whispered, We are proud of you. Name one project I completed before this. She could not. I asked my father for my official job title. He did not know. I asked Evan what I had patented. He glanced at the legal notice. They knew the price of my car and the value of my credentials, but they did not know my work. That realization hurt, but it also freed me. I had spent years trying to earn recognition from people studying only my usefulness. I picked up the key. The investigation will proceed. I will cooperate truthfully. I will not endorse Embershield, conceal forged documents, or contact investors for you. Do not use my name again. My father's voice became quiet. Are you cutting us off? I'm ending your access to me. What happens next depends on whether you learn the difference between love and ownership. I walked away. No one followed. The consequences arrived quickly. Within 48 hours, both investors withdrew from Embershield. Westbridge cited false testing, undisclosed payments, and misrepresentation of technical advisors. North Peak reserved the right to recover funds already transferred. The bank froze Bennett Alpine's expansion credit line and ordered an independent audit. My father temporarily stepped down, and Evan was removed as chief executive. Days later, an internal memorandum confirmed investigations into unauthorized payments, misleading fundraising materials, and misuse of intellectual property. The story became public after a regional business publication obtained the investor withdrawal notice. The article did not name me, but described an engineer whose credentials had been used without permission. I expected judgment. Instead, other engineers contacted me to describe similar pressure to approve unsafe work or allow executives to exaggerate technical reviews. One young woman wrote, "Seeing someone refuse reminded me that protecting the public is part of the job, even when the pressure comes from family." That message meant more than every compliment beneath the Mercedes photograph. My parents called repeatedly. My father first accused my employer of overreacting, then asked me to recommend a laboratory, and later blamed the crisis on my refusal to help. Only his seventh message said, "I'm sorry." My mother sent childhood photographs and wrote that she missed the family we used to be. I almost replied that the family she missed had survived because I absorbed whatever everyone else refused to face. Bennett Alpine did not collapse, but survival came at a high price. The company sold its downtown flagship store, reduced corporate staff, and preserved most warehouse jobs under restructuring. An outside executive took control. My father lost authority over major financing decisions. My parents sold the condominium Evan had used and moved personal savings into the company. Evan surrendered his ownership interest, and the audit ended his career at Bennett Alpine. My mother's role in copying my signature was documented internally, and she resigned from the company's charitable foundation. For the first time, their choices cost them money, status, control, and the public image they had protected more carefully than their relationship with me. 3 months later, my father came to my office carrying an envelope. It contained records of my education fund, the amount transferred, the growth I had lost, and repayment with interest. "Repayment does not erase it," I said. "I know," he replied. He admitted he had convinced himself I did not need the money because I was capable, while Evan needed constant help. "You punished competence," I said. "Yes." "And rewarded dependence." "Yes." He then described my wildfire system accurately, the first time he had ever shown real understanding of my work. "I'm proud of you," he said. "I needed you to be proud before my success became useful to the company." He did not ask for forgiveness. That mattered. Natalie reviewed the repayment documents, which included a written acknowledgement that money intended for my education had been diverted without my consent. I used part of it to create a scholarship for women studying fire protection engineering. I did not name it after the Bennetts. Evan contacted me once. Most of his message explained his stress and the pressure of carrying the family legacy. Only the final lines apologized for taking my files and using my credentials. I replied, "You did not fail because I exposed you. You failed when you decided my work belonged to you." He never answered. My relationship with my mother remained more complicated. During counseling, she admitted they had ignored my birthday intentionally because my father feared I might question the Ember Shield presentation if I attended Evan's dinner. That truth hurt more than forgetting. They had excluded me to protect the lie. I did not permanently end contact, but I stopped offering automatic access. I answered when ready, left conversations when blame replaced accountability, and no longer repaired every conflict simply because silence made others uncomfortable. 6 months after buying the Mercedes, I drove it to the opening of our first completed wildfire-resilient housing community. Residents asked about water reserves, maintenance, backup power, and evacuation procedures. They cared about the work itself. Afterward, a little girl pointed toward the car and asked, "Is that yours?" "Yes." "Is it fast?" "Very." The Mercedes no longer felt like a message to my family. It was simply something I enjoyed. Purchased during the week, I stopped asking permission to value my own life. That was the real revenge. It was not destroying my parents' company or humiliating Evan. Their losses came from their own choices. I only refused to protect them from the consequences. My revenge was building a future they could not claim, protecting my name when they treated it like an asset, and allowing my success to serve my values instead of their emergencies. An expensive car cannot heal neglect or prove your worth. The real victory comes when you stop using achievement to audition for love. Celebrate your work because it matters to you. Protect what you build. And when someone demands access to the life you created without their support, remember that sharing your success is a choice, not a debt. My parents finally saw me after the Mercedes appeared online. By then, I had already learned to see myself.
We truly appreciate your support and attention. This fictional story was created only for entertainment, education, and dramatic storytelling. We hope it reminds you that the strongest comeback is not always loud, public, or dramatic. Sometimes it is simply waking up one day and realizing that the people who hurt you no longer have control over your emotions.